Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say. And welcome, everyone. We are in our last show before a little break here. Caleb moves about the country tomorrow, and so we will not be able to do any further broadcasting tomorrow. We'll be back next Friday, a week from this Friday, a little bit later, like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Happy 420, everybody. There's a lot of 420 action on the Restream. Susie, you know all about 420? No, she's shaking her head no.
I saw it, but I wasn't sure. What does that mean?
420...
Is that at your mom's house thing?
No. I don't want to explain it to you because I don't want to spoil you. You're perfect as you are.
Oh, shut up.
So,
oh, come on.
It really is nothing. But
it's funny, right?
You know, my friends at Cypress Hill have a very famous 420 concert.
Okay.
Remember those guys?
Yeah.
Okay. And 420 is sort of the time when you smoke out a little bit. That's for the cannabis world.
Oh, is that what we're going to do later?
If you wish. I mean, why not once in a while, whatever it takes. But I don't think New York looks kindly upon that. We come from the great state of California.
I don't have anything anyway, so.
Oh, well, damn. Adam Housley.
But how did our daughter get so hooked on pot if New York doesn't look at it?
Good question. Maybe I think it's available medically here, so
I
she
think
probably
so.
sort of, which has always been a ridiculous scam. That's what I always said. If you're going to have this big medical marijuana system, it is really just a de facto legalization of cannabis. Don't misuse my profession. Just legalize it. Just forget it. That this is just, and then people can choose to use it or not use it in so-called therapeutic context or not. But having to see a doctor was the most ridiculous thing and the most a miscarriage of professional services. Susan, could you put the air on a little bit here? I'm actually hot right now, if that's possible.
Maybe.
So our guest today is Adam Housley, because I'll get you right back in here, because I know Susan wants to speak to Adam.
No, just you guys go ahead.
Emmy and AP award-winning journalist, former professional baseball player, now a vintner or winery owner, I guess we have more accurate. He's had a very wide and interesting career and life, and he always gets, well, Susan, I think Adam stirs you up particularly. He says lots of things that make you a little nervous, yes?
It doesn't make me nervous. I just like what he has to say.
Well, let's bring him on in.
Smart.
Adam Housley, you can see him on the website, Adam Housley TV. Follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Adam Housley, Housley, and at The Housley Life. Adam, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Drew.
So I want to get right into something that Susan was actually very anxious to talk to you today, because she became, I don't quite know what's going on with what she's thinking, and I'm going to have you sort of see if she's going in the right direction or if she's off base here. She got very upset by. All right, so let me frame it this way.
Yeah, wait till I unleash on you.
I will. So I have always thought it was bizarre that this country followed the policies of the Chinese Communist Party in Wuhan during the initial phases of this outbreak. That seemed bizarre to me. It seemed nothing like that had ever been done in the history of medicine. It seemed no evidence based for doing it. It seemed like it could only be harmful. There was a lot of at the time, well, what else are you going to do? Or we got to do something. Let's just do this to flatten the curve. Okay. And I remember, as I've said many, many times here, I was on a local Fox 11 show I was anchoring in Los Angeles, and we had somebody from the school board who came in and said, we're going to close the schools. And I just said, who told you to do that? What a physician came up with this? No, it's just the right thing to do. It was all Wuhan. And to me, Wuhan at the time, with the chlorine trucks running down the streets and the bricking people into their apartments and things, looked like an attempt for the local, what I think of as the local Soviet, trying to save face against the higher authority, right? I mean, the communist system is such that if the uppity-ups have to get involved, you have failed. So I thought, well, that's probably all they were doing. So far, am I correct, or would you modify what I've presented thus far?
No, I would say you're exactly correct. I would add a little bit to it in the sense that as they were doing those actions, I mean, listen, actions speak louder than words. We can all sit here and we can go back and forth politically, and people are going to have their opinion no matter what. But factually, what you said is correct. And don't forget, factually, as they were doing that, they were allowing people to fly out of their country.
Right. Right. So there seemed to be no rhyme, there's really no medical sort of logic to what they were doing. There's no physicians, no infectious disease experts making these calls. It was politics, bureaucracy, something else doing it. Now our New York Times editorial board stepped up and said, you must do the same thing. And our politicians, well, and then the states followed one after the other, which seemed to be sort of a Trump derangement. If Trump said, take it easy, they had to go extra hard. But whatever, these were the sort of the factors playing. All right, so now here we are 2 years hence, and everyone is looking at Shanghai and going, oh my God, I can't believe it. I can't believe what's going on. Can you imagine? And my perception of this is, how does it look? You like it? That's what we did. We followed that policy. That's what we did. The Communist Chinese Party in Shanghai, that basic structure is what we followed. Now, that's my opinion. Susan thinks something much more significant is going on in this. I feel like it's, again, the bureaucracy doing what bureaucracy does, that the local Soviet can't let the uppity-ups find out that they're failing in any way. They have to take care of it themselves. Right. They do it under the guise of zero COVID, which any rational person knows is a zero probability. But I'm going to let Susan talk about what she's worried about.
But you're talking about Soviets.
I'm just using it as a model of how communist systems are put together.
Soviets are different than Chinese
That's
people.
True.
And when
that
it comes to communism.
No, well, I'm just talking about bureaucracy. You substitute the word bureaucracy
Control.
for Soviet.
Communist
bureaucrocy.
Control.
Yeah, government control and government bureaucracy is what I'm talking about.
Right,
Yeah.
which
how the Russians did it, how the Chinese do it.
Right,
okay, but go ahead.
Right, and how, but the thing about China is there's so many more people, and they've been indoctrinated, to become workers for the government, peasants and, basically the people that are in charge are the 1% at the top. But what bothers me is when they use something like COVID to disguise what's really going on behind the scenes. And China is known for having
a lot stuff.
Having a motive, having different motives. And Trump was the only one who would call them out and really, get to the bottom of it. But it's like everybody's afraid to talk about it. And the Chinese typically, like the Russians want to talk about it, but they just shut them off and say, sorry, you can't talk about it. The Chinese will not talk about it, and they hide because they're afraid of their lives ending abruptly or their families' lives. And it worries me because I think that there's something bigger coming.
All right, so that's what Susan sees this as something ancillary. There's something else going on. I see it as just a repeat of Wuhan. She's saying, oh, no, I think now I have heard a theory that they're making it. One theory I have heard was there's an attempt to tank commodity prices. That's one of their
Well, they already tanked our economy. So with the COVID, so they're getting their way.
All right, so let's hear. Is Susan on to something, Adam? Is my question.
That's a tough answer. Honestly, a question to answer, I should say. I think we have to go back and look at the kind of you each have laid things out that are very informative, but I think Americans don't really pay attention to because of if you don't do what we say, you are against, you're an anti-vaxxer. We quickly judge everybody, as you guys know, and it happened before the Wuhan situation brought coronavirus to the rest of the world. But we can look at the facts of everything. And the facts are this: the Chinese we can't trust. There's no doubting that. Anybody who says otherwise is either lying or paid off, or they're afraid for their lives. And Susan touched on that as well. I know I have a number of people that were both in China and have been in Hong Kong, which is obviously Chinese territory now, throughout this entire time and prior to. They all tell the same story. They don't know each other. Inside China, it was a situation where you have two types of people. You have those who are completely terrified for their lives and will do whatever it takes, because if they don't, they're afraid for their lives and their families' lives or livelihoods, or both. And then you have those who are bought in. And I know that from my friends in Hong Kong, there were points where if you didn't have your mask on perfectly, people could report you and they would get a reward. So it was like you went outside. It was terrifying for people even to go outside because God forbid, A, you pissed somebody off and they lied about you, or B, you didn't put your mask on right or whatever. And so that's what people are dealing with inside China. And now we know also what China did with the World Health Organization. I mean, they lied. And the WHO knew they were lying and still put out improper information. So what kind of threats or what were they doing influence wise to the WHO? Everything we've been told about this from day one by China has pretty much been wrong, and their actions have been wrong. I know from the investigators involved, and at least some of the investigators involved, that they still don't get access or haven't got access to be able to look at things and decide on where this truly came from. I mean, the guys that I trust immensely still say the question isn't if this was messed with, this virus was messed with. It's a naturally occurring virus that was somehow messed with and somehow got out. Now, the debate is, did it get out on purpose or not? That's where the debate really continues to exist. But there is no debate on how it spread. It was allowed to spread. Again, action speaks louder than words. So that brings us to today. And then we can go on to how we responded to it and the different shutdowns. I was in California. So I think early on, our governor handled it well. Later on, he sucked. And it's that simple. I mean, he went to a 5-star restaurant and lied about the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was my hometown, Yountville. So I say all that to bring us to today. Obviously, some of us are watching what's going on in Shanghai. Is this China trying to, again, mess with the commodity market? Is there something really going down? Some people on the extreme, Susan, to follow your line of thought, there are some people that I know, again, I try to take in different information. I'm not saying I agree with them, but there's some people I know that think that China is trying to develop other strains to help cover their tracks and try to see if they can make them look like they're naturally occurring strains. So there's a lot of theories out there. And part of the reason why we have all these theories is China is not giving us access.
That makes perfect sense. I predict that will happen. They do what makes sense for the logic of their bureaucratic system. That system does what it does. But I think, but Susan,
I have other theories.
Well, you're afraid for the Chinese people, right?
I know that.
Yeah.
I know a couple of things. I know that if we had World War, there's always a chance that China and Russia would work together. I just have from history, and that they, but on the other hand, they don't want World War, so they might put up a good fight against it, but then have to do whatever they had to do.
So you're worried that somehow Shanghai is a nut.
And I don't think they want the people to rebel against it. So they're making them, learn what it's going to be like.
Softening them up.
So like you do whatever we tell you to do. And then, or the other thing is, obviously Taiwan's days are numbered. So that might be the other reason that they're getting ready to do something there and they don't want any protests about it. So if we take everybody's food away and we make them stay in their houses.
Go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. The delay. I apologize. There's two things. You guys are making great points. And remember one big thing: China does not want the U.S. to fail. If we fail, their house of cards collapses. They want us to falter. Russia also wants us to falter, but it's not economically tied. They want us to falter because of the bravado of Putin wanting to return the Soviet Union. It's not. He doesn't want to bring the Soviet Union back. He wants to bring the size of the Soviet Union back. And then the third part of that, of course, is Taiwan. And I think the way our actions of how we've handled the Afghanistan pullout and now how we handled what's going on in Ukraine, I think China is just biding its time. I think Taiwan and unfortunately is in very serious danger. And I've been to Taiwan. I love Taiwan. The people there are amazing.
And don't forget North Korea.
They deserve the sovereignty. Yeah, well, they just rattle stuff to get money.
Yeah.
True.
Right. So all right. So there's our Shanghai conversation. You all good? Are we all?
I mean, we all can assume that something else is up. It just
never a bad thought when it comes to China. It's not a bad thing to kind of keep on your mind.
You keep asking the question, why were those tanks of chlorine immediately going down the street like it was already planned? Like they knew it was coming.
Yep.
Right.
And it's the same kind of thing. It's like, this doesn't make sense that they're quarantining everybody and they're starving them because COVID is not going to kill you if you've been vaccinated. They
don't have good vaccines over there. They don't. And they don't have the good treatments yet either.
Well, that's another thing. And maybe they want a lot of people to die.
I think we're. Go ahead.
Oh, about control. There's something Susan might be interested in too. I know someone who's there, and they have a story of one of their friends who was not exposed to the current situation, but was because there was someone who reported that they were, even though they weren't, were taken away. They're being put into basically a container with a slit in the door, on the bottom of the door, and for 10 days they have a pillow and food that comes twice and is slid under the door. That's it. And this individual has never tested positive and was just taken away.
Yeah.
So this control mechanism going, I mean, is there some of that to
It's
remind
like
people what was going
Confucianism.
on in Hong Kong? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
this is what you're going to deal with.
the military when they used to go into the testing and they put them in these little cubes and then they would have to they would throw them over the side when they died.
But your point is you're suspicious and you're thinking past what most of us like to think too, which is that the government does not have the best interest of the people at heart. They have the best interest of the government.
Right.
That's it.
And if you look at history, okay, and if you go to Taiwan, they have these beautiful museums with these huge tapestries, and they were done by Confucian monks, and they're huge. They're just like walls and walls of this beautiful art. And I was looking at it, and it said like died, they died young. Okay, they died by the time they were 20 or whatever. And the reason was they would paint the anti-government stuff in the paintings, and when the government figured it out, they would kill them. So it's the same thing that's been going on for hundreds of centuries. Like it goes back to the 1300s or whatever. It's not, or hundreds of years. It's like it's just this way for there. It's like we don't want you to dissent and say anything.
Okay.
And you know what the interpreter said? Nobody cares. And I said, why don't they care? Because they're not supposed to care.
Right. If they care, they'll get killed too.
Right. So we can't get information out, and it makes me curious.
So I'm going to move on from China for a second because I think we've pretty much drilled that topic. What do you make of Elon Musk's offer to Twitter? And I'm wondering, amongst other things, whether or not just what he's done so far is going to shake up Twitter so much that it'll never be the same company.
Listen, I'm open to it. I think Twitter. I was a big Twitter. I still do tweet. All the last week I haven't because I've been a little busy. But it's been frustrating for me because on Twitter is where I put out the information about, for example, the governor in California eating at the French Laundry. On Twitter is where I talked about the computer repair shop. And JP, the guy that was given the computers by Hunter Biden, and I was shadow banned. I didn't get totally banned like the New York Post, but I was shadow banned for that thing. So I know there's all these other options out there that they just don't have the same size or the reach that Twitter has because of the fact it started so long ago. I mean, I've been on there since like 2007. So I only say that because I would love to see Twitter get back to the true open forum that it once was. It's not there right now. I would hope that Elon Musk I call him in my own little household, I call him the mad scientist. I mean, he's that guy who's like, he just likes to stir everything up. I mean, who would have thought digging tunnels under LA? I mean, he does it. Whether you like it or not,
yeah.
And whether he finishes it or not, that's all different debates. But I kind of hope that someone like him can step in with the money and be like, well, no, we're taking this back to where it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, he said. I saw him say one thing that with such clarity. He was like, somebody was bugging him. Well, shouldn't the government be doing this? He goes, why do we give capital to an organization that has abject failure at the process of capital allocation? They don't allocate capital properly, so you don't get the growth that the private sector can bring you. And I thought that is exactly the problem. That is it. Is a poor capital allocation system. It's inefficient. It's ineffective. It doesn't work. And to everyone hand the capital that direction results in disaster. Always. It always does. So he's an interesting guy to me. I agree with you. He's a guy that just shakes the box all the time. And
yep.
I am upset. Thank God I'm not a Twitter stockholder. I would be very upset that the board would not have asked for a proxy vote. Because that's how it's done in all business, in all publicly held companies. How did they get away with not doing that? Do you know?
No, well, I think they got away with it with the politics of the time. I mean, in the sense that it was that outside pressure that or the inside pressure. People saying, "Oh, you can't let Elon Musk do it. He'll bring back everybody." I mean, it was like, well, what's wrong with that? I mean, it should be my decision who I follow. I mean, there are a lot of nutcases out there. You know that, you Dr. Drew, you know that more than I do. I say nutcases not
Yeah.
in a mental state, but in just an action state. And I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So it's like I want to be able to choose. That's what makes America great, is my ability to choose. And if I choose stupid, that's on me. But if I choose right, that's also on me. So I think that I kind of welcome it. But I think that the reason why they got away with not having a proxy vote is because of the current situation we're in, where that outside pressure comes in, and then they have that as an excuse now. Oh, well, we got we can't do this for whatever reason. I mean, if it happened 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I think that they would have had to have had a proxy vote. But in this current state, anybody can be pressured to doing just about anything, especially if you don't believe a certain political direction.
Right. So you mentioned that take us again through what you knew about the Hunter Biden computers and what happened to you and where we are now. Hang on, before you answer though, Caleb is putting up on the screen here, Susan, that he bought Twitter in 2017. Woo! Yeah, good move in 2017, but you're going to lose half of those. You better sell short. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
you're going to lose
for a hot minute. Now's the time. Get rid of it.
But did you buy Tesla?
But anyway.
No.
Yeah. Did you short Netflix?
No, darn it.
Netflix is down from $700. It's crazy. Okay, so what about all that? Well, tell us about your experience with the computers and what you think is there and how what's going.
I would have reported the exact same way. I don't care which party it was for. It kind of came to me by accident, in the sense that I'd heard a little bit about the story, been out for maybe a half day or a day at the most. A friend of mine who I trust immensely calls me and says, "Hey, I'm talking with JP's dad." And I go, "Who's JP's dad?" He's like, the computer repair guy. And I'm like, "What?" I'm trying to figure this out. And they said, "Oh, yeah. And he goes, he's starting to get attacked and it's unfair." And I said, he's like, can you do something to help him out? I said, "Well, I need to know the story. I have to talk to him." All of a sudden, the dad gets on the phone. Dad's a war hero. The father was a war hero. He flew I forgot how many missions in Vietnam. And that's how my buddy knew him. And it's like, so dad's not going to be out there trying to run the ball for the Russians, for God's sakes. Dad is a war hero from Vietnam. Some of the most, pro-America, left and right, politically doesn't matter, but the most pro-American people I've ever met growing up in my life. And they went through a lot being in Vietnam, clearly. So he gives me the whole story. And I finally said, "Sir, I appreciate your service, first of all. And secondly, I said, this sounds believable, but I can't just report something like this. I got to talk to him." He's like, "Well, I'll see what I can do. I'll try," and blah, blah, blah. So the phone hangs up. 20 minutes later, I'm at my parents' house, so I remember this. 20 minutes later, the phone rings. I took down all the notes in the back of a manila envelope from my mom's office. It was JP, was the computer repairman. And I treated him like I would any other interview subject when I was in the news. I grilled him up one side and down the other. I tried to catch him in contradictions. I tried to the point where I finally said, "You said to the news that you couldn't be for sure because you're legally blind." He's like, and he explained to me it this way. This is what I think finally sold me, was like, "I've never been in front of a camera before. These guys stuck cameras in my face. I was afraid they were going to put me in front of I watched Law and Order." That's what he said. He goes, "I'm afraid they're going to throw me in front of a judge. I'm going to have to." He gets this whole spiel, and I get it. And the way he was stumbling. I've met people like that when I've interviewed them. And he says to me, "Adam, I'm legally blind, but I can see 6 feet. And my counter is not 6 feet in front of me." He's like, "I know who gave me those computers." And then he was the one that sent me the email from Hunter Biden's attorney. I was the one that released that to the public. I put that out. So I believe him. And what frustrated me also is people were so politically polarized. They don't do the common basic research. Funny enough, Dr. Drew, about 3 weeks before that, my wife's computer had crashed. The same type of computer that Hunter Biden brought in 5 of them or whatever, 3 of them. And I watched the guy do it at my house. He plugs in the computer that's dead on one side into his computer with his screen open, a laptop, and then he has a hard drive on the other side. And you literally drop it on the top, onto the screen, make sure it's not corrupted or whatever, and then you drag it over to the hard drive. When you drag and drop, what do? You see things. It's absolutely impossible not to. There's no other way to do it. So this whole idea that he was digging around and, he's like, he was doing his job. And then then the other frustrating part, I think, for him and for me as a reporter was, in his defense also, he tried not to make this public. His father tried to go to the FBI several times. He tried to go. They finally took it 6 months later from him, 6 months later. And then 9 months after that is when they finally went to Rudy Giuliani, because they hadn't heard anything. So you're talking about well over a year and several months time frame that this guy tried to keep it out of the public eye. He just wanted to go to the authorities, who eventually took it. and didn't do jack with it because they were trying to do, for whatever reason, there's all kinds of theories out there on this. But all I know is if it had been my computer or your computer, I think it would have been treated much differently. And there are multiple.
And then what do you make of the whatever was 50 intelligence professionals who said, "Oh no, this is categorically, I can say for sure, this is a Russian disinformation campaign."
Yeah,
what do you
didn't
do
even
with
look
those
at the
people?
computer. Well, those people,
Right.
first of all, have zero credibility. And what my frustration is, you see people being put on TV like a Clapper or a Brennan, from some of the other issues that they've had and some of the things they've told that have not come true and were complete fabrications. And it's like, how are those guys considered experts now? I mean, that'd be like me going out and saying, I was the best gymnast you've ever seen. I can do 4 backflips and the Russian judge gave me a 9.5. And then everyone knows that's a complete lie, but all of a sudden I'm an expert anyway. That doesn't make sense to me. So those 50 professionals who signed on to that letter should be completely discounted from anything in the future in regards to their opinion on things, because that was clearly done either politically or because they were pressured. And either way, it's wrong. They didn't talk to the person. They didn't look at the computer. And again, actions always speak louder than words. The FBI kept the computer. The FBI opened investigation. You don't do that to something that's nothing. And now, what's on the computer? That's another whole debate. I don't honestly know. He told me a few things that he saw. I don't think he truly knows everything either. That's on there. I haven't spoken to him in a little while, but I believe the guy. I think he was an honest American. I think he did what's right. I think he tried to do what's right for a very long time. And I think that for him to become the enemy is exactly what's wrong in this country right now.
What is it that so Matt Gaetz entered the contents of the computer into the congressional record? Is that what I saw happen? I'm a little confused by what's happening now, and what is going to happen with that, and where's it all going to go, do we think?
I don't know. That's a good question. And funny you say that. I saw that clip. Was one of actually was the only live thing I'd actually watched that day. I happened to turn on. I don't watch the news, but I turned on C-SPAN and it popped up, and so I saw that and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I haven't had a chance to follow back up on it. It's a lot of stuff going on right now in Washington, as you know. And so I need to follow up on what I don't know, Matt. And I'm not sure if it was a political stunt or if he actually does have what the contents were on there. And I also would like to know from my what I'll do is I'm going to call one of my tech guys that I respect, who doesn't have really a political animal in this game. And I'll be like, hey, is this something that he would have been able to figure out, get open and, see? And that person will tell me yes or no.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I'll be anxious to hear what that is. I don't know where we're going with that. It's all very confusing to me. I wonder also if you have an opinion about Julian Assange and what's happening with him.
And there's another one. I mean, my frustration with Julian Assange is like, why can't, I guess it comes down to Julian Assange was a hero for one side until he wasn't. And now he's not.
Yeah.
Now he's the villain of that same side. And it's I just want truth to come out. And what I find frustrating, Dr. Drew, with JP, Julian Assange, even with the Trump administration, even Obama in some ways, and some of their administration, is I feel like we've become this country of, we're going to win no matter what the cost is, no matter who's affected, no matter what the truth is, and we're not getting the truth out. Julian Assange is putting out stuff that benefited the left, and they were pumped by it, and then all of a sudden it didn't, and then they're pissed by it. I think Julian has. I think Trump missed a huge opportunity. I think Trump should have brought him to the States, done some sort of pardon, because who knows what he knows. I mean, and for me, again, I just want truth, and for no matter which side it benefits.
Isn't he at the? I'm wondering if he is going to be sort of ground zero, or at least one of the skirmishes around free speech, right? Because both sides are pissed at him, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be, right? No one's supposed to like free speech, because he's exposing everything, and there's bound to be stuff. That's how free speech finds a balance, by pissing everybody off.
Yep. What's wrong with that? I mean, people are like, well, it hurts our security. Well, what about Bradley Manning? Or what's I forgot, he transitioned, forgot her name all of a sudden. But that stuff was leaked.
Yeah, right. And that people actually died. That people were speculating that somebody died. But yeah.
I mean, I don't want to
Yeah.
see anybody
No,
lose their life.
it's
Obviously, you have to, I'm America first
it's
guy.
very
I love
concerning.
to help the rest of the world. It is, but it's very concerning. I mean, for me, especially being here, where I'm seeing this, if you don't think a certain way, then you're a certain way. And it's like, wait a second here. I mean, I was at Fox, so automatically I was a right-wing extremist racist. I'm married to a black woman. And
Right.
then people say, oh, that's a cover. I'm like, are you kidding me? I mean, seriously right now? This could be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I married a woman that had children because I want to cover
Well,
my racism. I mean, that's insanity. And that's what we come to. And there's people that believe this stuff, Dr. Drew. I don't know. You would know as a doctor,
yeah.
is, I mean, it's like our psyche has been completely blown. The common sense is no longer common.
Yeah. Well, it to me, one of the gravest concerns, and I saw strangely enough, a sort of a Twitter feed today about this, that the foundation of all that, what you're talking about, are the post-structuralist French philosophers, Foucault, Saussure, these guys from the 1950s. That I've been studying French lately, and I've been seeing some French speakers talk on that, and they cannot understand how anyone could be interested in those fools. They, in fact, from many philosophers' perspective, they were playing a joke. It was sort of, they were having fun with reality by, making fun of words and things. This idea that reality really doesn't exist. Well, look, the physicists can tell you that, but there's an emergent, what we call classical world that we must deal with, and it does exist, and it has sort of biological rules, and it has sociological. There's things that just happen and operate, and the idea that we are preoccupied with meaningless French philosophers from nearly 100 years ago that the French themselves would have nothing to do with for the last 70 years is just weird. And yet they cling to these guys and their nihilism. And I guess maybe it's, I don't know. Nihilism, I guess, is attractive when you're trying to just completely tear everything down, I guess.
I know. And then you have people that are out there that are, still somehow what's old is new again, talking about the benefits of a true socialist or communist society. I'm like, we know this doesn't work, people. I mean, you said, well, Western Europe they have some socialist things. They're not socialist nations. There's a difference.
Yes.
I mean, have you?
Yes.
And I think part of the problem is a lot of Americans who think these things are woke, or they're trying to be helpful, but the only form of travel they've ever done is to a sandals resort in the Caribbean. They've never actually been to, a place where people are under these type of very strict constraints. I mean, Venezuela, I've been to. Cuba, I haven't been there, thankfully, but I want to go. Venezuela, I've been to, on the border of North Korea. So I've seen what North Korea looks like standing on the South Korean side. China, I've been to China. You've been to some of these nations and you see how people are treated, and you see what they're yearning for, and they're yearning for what we have. And in some cases we're giving away.
Yeah, I've been to Cuba a couple of times. And last time we were there, we had to buy people food because they didn't have food. And there were some lovely elements of music and celebration, and the hotels kind of worked, but the rest of the country was just so, oh my God, it was struggling. I mean, it was just terrible to see.
Right.
Communism doesn't work.
And then people go, it's because the Americans choked them off economically. It's like, no.
We got in right in between when Trump opened it up and he closed it on a cruise ship. But it was good to see. I mean, they seemed like they were trying to be capitalistic and make money off of it, but they didn't have anything to sell. They didn't, and if you sell something, you have to give half the money to the government. So like anything you sell.
Well, remember, the socialism and communism was when the government owns the businesses. And back to Elon Musk's point that this is the least effective system at the allocation of capital. Now, they just don't do a good job at it. It just doesn't work. And to the extent that there is socialism in Western Europe, they paid a gigantic economic price for it.
The only people
Gigantic.
that hurt from sanctions are the people. The government doesn't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Because we're giving sanctions.
The government's going to find its.
Yeah.
Yep.
Doesn't do anything.
Well, and it's not a 50% tax that makes it a socialist system. We pay 50%. If you live in California, you're paying 50%. You're paying, that's what you're paying. What, 54 is it now?
It's probably more in Cuba. It's probably like 75%.
It's not the taxing. It's the control. There's no economics. There's no. I don't know. Again, we're getting into
Listen,
a
it's
crazy
simple.
conversation.
If our roads were good, our mental health was properly functioned, if our schools had truly had the money going to the students, if law enforcement was properly secured, our infrastructure and bridges were being, then I'd be fine paying 54%. But in California, our roads are crap. Our mental health system is not being addressed. Money's being thrown away for horrible decision making in Sacramento in regards to this, happening across the country, by the way. But I can go through the whole list, but while I'm on this really quickly, for those who are watching from California, because I don't want to make this a California centered conversation, take a look and keep an eye on. So one of the other things I've been talking about and tweeting about is the absolute mess of money that this country gave away for COVID. And that money didn't go, they're trying to make it sound like, oh, well, this person took 2 million, that person took 2 million, and the inmates, they stole bull crap. That's all very, very, it's like a percent of what was stolen. In California alone, right now, the estimate is $60 billion was lost to COVID. We're not getting any of that back. Nationwide, it's over $500 billion. California could reach $100 billion alone. And most of that money went overseas. It went to West Africa and Eastern Europe. It's basically financing crime.
Yeah, please keep reporting on that. It was a boondoggle of just monumental proportions, and that people don't understand. Again, the California is such a mess. I keep saying I don't mind paying tax either if I get something for it. Now I live in the city of Pasadena, and they have great city services, and I have sales tax and things that I pay. I am delighted to pay. My garbage, everything is good, and I can look out my window and see my government functioning. In fact, I saw, oh Christ, what's the name of the famous Nobel Prize winning economist that he's sort of out of favor right now. Anyway, I saw an interview with him where he was saying that's why, really the best government is local government. That's where people can see and participate in. And the habit of democracy is something that Alexis de Tocqueville pointed out in 1820 as why democracy was working in America. And the fact that things get more and more centralized is breaking that down. Things need to be decentralized. The centralization is really, I see it killing my profession. Centralization is really bad in medicine right now. And it's why doctors didn't perform well during COVID. They were afraid, they were listening to central authorities, and the central authorities did not know what they were doing or were weirdly engaged in political thinking around their medical decision-making. It was very, very strange. And it did not help people. I've never heard physicians say, go home and come back when you're in extremis. Go home and come back when you're really sick. That was the weirdest, most effed up thing I'd ever seen. Let's, Adam, I got to take a quick break here. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll take some calls off Clubhouse, so stay with us. Let me take a minute to tell you about Blue Mics. Over the 2 years we've been working with our friends at Blue Mics, the world has completely adapted to working and meeting virtually. So whether you know it or not, you probably spent a lot of time in front of a microphone. Now, take it from someone who has spent probably half my life on a microphone. Sounding good is extremely important. And because of Blue Mics, I have never sounded better. But a good mic isn't just for broadcasting. Quality audio makes a big impact on whomever is listening on the other end, from coworkers to clients to friends. Clear sound can make all the difference. Thanks to Blue Mics, you don't need complicated or expensive equipment to get professional results. For simple plug-and-play setups, try Blue Mics Yeti series. It plugs right into your USB. You will never go back. To take your audio to the next level, just go to drdrew.com/blue. That is drdrew.com/BLUE. We are back with Adam Housley. Again, you can find him at Adam Housley. Let me get all your proper stuff.
We lost our audio or something.
Oh, now
That's my
At
audio.
some point.
At some point, we had some freezing. We have frozen.
Not
for a minute and
yours.
stuff. Yeah, and when Adam
Sorry,
starts
you guys.
talking about
the
problematic
blue-
topics,
during
we
the
just
ad.
freeze. What is that all about?
Yeah,
I don't
something
know.
during the ad happened.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's Adam Housley. Wait a minute. Is Adam Housley? Is that right, Adam? Am I getting Adam
Yep.
Housley Life. All right, there we go.
It's at Adam Housley. Yep. You got
Okay. Okay. So let's get some calls going here. Oh, and by the way, people are giving me a bunch of shit about Dr. Fauci. I've been, from the beginning of this pandemic, I've been saying, the press needs to shut up and we should listen to Dr. Fauci and the CDC. Now, I know Fauci has been adulterated. The CDC has to take a good, long, hard look at itself and its performance here. It's not been what I wanted, but I believe he and that organization will adjust course. I don't think the public health system is going to adjust course necessarily.
Right.
That's what I'm worried about. The horrible, horrible decision-making by county and state public health officials. And by the way, I've realized that we have non-physicians in these public health positions. That's insane. And to the extent that we do have physicians, there's a majority of pediatricians, and they don't have the judgment capacity. They're not used to making judgments around adult medicine. I talked to Peter Hotez the other day, and he was flipping out about the neurological consequences of COVID. And I was thinking, why is he so worked up about it? I thought, he's never done adult neurology. He doesn't understand that older people, my age, when we get sick, we always get neurological symptoms and then we recover. That's the way it works. That's having an old brain. That's what it's all about. Let's see if I can get Steve up here now. Steve K. There you are. Steve, what's going on?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
Susan, you might want to check. I'm not sure of all the details on this, but on the subject of Shanghai, it's my understanding that there's a major Chinese Communist Party election that's happening in the next few months, and that this lockdown may be related to that. I don't know.
That would be where Susan's spidey sense was up. I know not to disregard your spidey sense, by the way. Trust me, I'm not disregarding it. I'm just trying to figure it out, what it is you might be seeing.
They're shutting down because they think people like them better when they get shut down?
Or maybe it works against some political figure versus another. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, the areas that they're shutting down are related to the opposition. Shanghai is technology intense, and a lot of the opposition. It's considered the freest city in China, which I know
right.
is kind of
and they also are shutting down the technology
There
as
you
well.
go. There you go.
And Elon Musk's plan is over there too, in Shanghai. But
interesting.
I mean,
so confusing.
Let's see what that's about. Adam, are you familiar with a book called Unrestricted Warfare?
I'm not.
Is Adam still on the line?
He's here. He was thinking. He's a little delay. You'll speak. He has a little delay before he can hear you, like a second.
Okay.
But he said no. He's not. Yeah. Go ahead.
It plays into your discussion a lot. It was written by two Chinese colonels in 1999, and it's essentially the blueprint for from those colonels to the Chinese Communist Party for domination of the West and the globe. And what was written, it's translated, and it's a tough read, but translated, it says, there are three ways that we're going to control and dominate the West, three types of warfare. There's data or cyber warfare, there's economic warfare, and there's kinetic warfare, guns up. And if we win the first two types of warfare, we will never have to fire a gun. And apparently that is the plan. And we've seen it in economic warfare. We've seen in how China's the CCP has taken our manufacturing industries and replaced them with fentanyl in many of the major manufacturing cities. And we've also seen the dominance and the money that's been poured into media and into our technology. Our technology has been stolen. So, I'm just wondering if this is there are no conspiracies, but there are also no coincidences. If maybe this is just part of a larger plan to not crush us, like you said, but to control us.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you say there, Adam? Yeah, makes sense to me.
I mean, it makes complete sense. You also, there's something else that I have not read the book, but I got to believe somewhere in there from what you're telling me, there's got to be some sort of connection in regards to enveloping yourself or ingraining yourself, I should say, into society. I mean, China is so intertwined into the United States right now in so many different ways that they hold a lot of strings and they hold a lot of power here. And the U.S. has allowed that to happen. Sometimes our freedom can be, something that's going to hinder us. And I think that you have to add that into the mix as well. Again, China doesn't want us to fail. They want us to falter. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. And Adam, riddle me this. I'm probably the only person that's I brought this up before and it lands like a thud, but I'm going to bring it up again now, which is there were two opium wars where it was Western society essentially infected all of China with opiates. Nobody sees the irony that now they're doing that to us. And we complain about it like maniacs. And well, how are they allowed? Why do they keep doing it? Why don't they stop? We did it. We did it. And the wars were fought over it when they attempted to cut it off. We literally went to war because China said enough with the opium. It's insane that no one sees that history again. Adam, am I off base here?
No, we don't talk about history. Dr. Drew, we don't talk about history. Oh, you there?
Right.
You struck back.
That's right.
You struck
I'm
back.
here.
Well, we don't talk about history. We don't
keep
we don't
going.
learn
I struck
from
back.
history. I mean, but even recent history, we don't learn from it. He makes a point about the cyber warfare. I know this from the FBI guys who are on the front lines of this. We have military. I've done the story 3 or 4 times of different cyber warfare teams we have. And most recently, I think I put this out on Twitter about a year ago. A buddy of mine contacted me. There's warehouses in China where they have people sitting in front of big plywood, basically tilt-ups, and they have between 20 and 40 cell phones all the way across, and all they're doing is influencing the U.S. and U.S. social media.
Right.
I mean, I think I've got the number of fraud cases right now that's coming from China is massive. I think the U.S. opens, I forgot how many hundred of cases every day. And it's all coming from China. They're absolutely at a massive war with us, and we don't care or don't know how to handle it.
I get pictures of young Chinese women that, hi, you're in my contacts and I don't know who you are. And I start cracking up. I just I fuck with them. But they're always like, oh, what do you do? Oh, maybe we can be friends. I'm like, no, sorry. But they never sent, I never click on any links. Yeah.
Yeah, right. She gave her all her passwords and everything to this Chinese woman. I don't understand what she was up to, but
completely safe.
They're always really cute.
So it's really safe to do. So let's get another call here going. Hang on, guys. Bobby's out there.
Hi, Bobby Chacon on Clubhouse. Raise your hand.
Well, let's
right up his alley.
I'm gonna invite Bobby to speak because I want to ask him that question that we talked about earlier about the leaders in intelligence coming in and. Now we'll see if Bobby comes to the podium here to speak. He may not want to speak about this.
He may be doing the Chinese move today.
No, it's I'll let him speak about the Chinese thing we were talking about, but also, I see him coming. Hi, Bobby. Bobby. You got to unmute yourself. We couldn't hear a thing because you're muted. Your mic's muted. It's the lower right-hand corner of the mic thing.
Am I doing this right?
You got it. We hear you now. So we had drinks and dinner with your friend Lauren Savan, your new neighbor.
My neighbor, I know. We celebrated her birthday last week.
Too crazy. Small world. So,
small world.
I know.
So we were. Do you know?
And Adam and I known each other for a while too. We've had dinner.
That's right.
Yeah, I was going to say
that.
Is that the
I remember that now.
I know about.
Yeah. So Adam, I want to ask Bobby the same question I asked you. These 50 intelligence professionals, so-called, that got in and said, "There's nothing to see here with this laptop. It's definitely Russian interference." What should we make of that, Bobby?
Well, I mean, look, you should make of it that when people retire from government, they try to leverage their experience to maximize their income. And
that's interesting.
So there's a very big move. And, my former colleague, Andy McCabe did it. And Josh Campbell has done it. I mean, these people leave government service and then they go and they get big contracts with CNN or MSNBC. And when you do that, and by the way, people have probably seen me on CNN and MSNBC, but I've never received a dime for appearing on any of those.
I will vouch for Bobby on that. He's been on my show on HLN.
I put Bobby on before. He didn't
our guest.
And I've never taken money to give my opinion. And these people have, and they get very lucrative contracts with these networks to do that. And so, but the understanding is they will say what the networks want them to say, regardless of their public pronouncements of objectivity. That just doesn't last, because a friend of mine did have one of those contracts and was relieved of it in short order because he didn't toe the line.
Right.
And so that's what I make of this. I make these people, there is this huge movement now in these people to write books and become experts and become commentators.
Yep.
And it's all financially driven.
Yep. Well, and to be fair, the mess we're in with media generally is because media has become, news particularly, has become such a commercial enterprise that it's distorting the ethics and the priorities. Is it? Adam, tell me more.
That's why, I mean, Bobby, I've known Bobby. So, hey, Bobby, good to talk to you, buddy. I've known Bobby. I put Bobby on, never paid him anything. He was always, one reason why I like to use Bobby, I used him a couple of times, is because he told you what he felt and there was no pay behind it. But he's exactly right. I mean, you have a lot of these experts that come on, and one of the frustrating parts of being a correspondent in the field, and I can tell you this is across the networks. This isn't just Fox or CNBC or ABC or NBC. They're all frustrated with this. Is that you'll be out in the field. I'd be out in, for example, the Middle East or someplace covering something, and I've been there for how many days, and you got some expert who comes on who's sitting in a chair, either someone who used to be in government who's being paid to say exactly what Bobby says. Either they were told what to say or they know the angle to say, or it's somebody who's, looks good on the air that's never been overseas, again, other than a sandals resort. And they sit down, they start talking about Mideast policy, or they start talking about, and I'm like, I'm here. What are you talking? That's not what happened. I mean, it's insane to me. And Bobby's exactly right. So as a correspondent, one of the reasons why I left was we were doing one report a day. You'd be on a story, and it's like, well, that doesn't help. What are we here for then? And a lot of times it'd be superseded by somebody sitting in a chair in D.C. or New York who has no idea what they're talking about, other than they're going to spew an opinion to follow a certain line.
So,
and it's
Adam,
really frustrating.
I've seen the exact same phenomenon in any medical topic that the news ever covers. It's done completely distorted, completely off base, does not get anywhere near the truth. And I think this is all something called Gelman amnesia. Bobby, Adam, you guys know what Gelman amnesia is?
I do not.
Gelman amnesia is a term, if you Wikipedia it, it's a famous physicist that when he'd read the paper and the paper would be covering physics, he'd go, my God, they've got this so wrong. Why do they always get physics wrong? And then he'd go read the rest of the paper and forget that his expertise was not well represented, but he assumed everything else was. So complex things like politics and international relationships, he assumed that was being truthfully represented, which of course it is not. And I think now we all know that. The question is, let's the three of us here talk about how to solve that. How do we solve it other than there being like a BBC? And by the way, the BBC has been a little off base lately too. I watch a lot of them, hoping that they'll give me the truth. But how do we find? Go ahead, Adam.
I said the problem with the Beeb, and I watch the Beeb as well, is that the Beeb also has a political bent when it comes to the Middle East. I mean, I don't care where you sit on Israel, but they obviously have a very strong view on Israel, and that's just a fact. I think the frustration is, and Bobby, Bobby's been on all the networks as a guest. I can tell you as a correspondent who worked at Fox for 17 years nationally, and with all the other networks at some point or another called and offered me a job, and some have even recently. So I've been in a lot of their newsrooms. I've been around in the field with all their correspondents. The frustration, I think, what happens is there hasn't been enough Americans to stand up and say, okay, enough. And we need that dog. We need that reaction.
I think that's on Bobby's
We
head.
need that barking.
Yeah,
We need the bark.
we need that dog to stand. Bobby, get your Bob out there to stand up and help us in this country.
That's an FBI.
I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. Americans have to demand it. I mean, I knew we were in trouble when I was supposed to go cover the death of Nelson Mandela, and for 6 months prior to, we knew he was in a very difficult situation. We had other stories lined up, so it wasn't just going to be a $25,000 trip or whatever it was going to cost. I was going to do some other stuff after we covered that, and it went away because of money. And there was never a decision like that before. I mean, my first 8, 10, whatever years at Fox, it was like, oh, something's happening there, go. There was never a thought process of, oh, well, is it going to cost us an extra $5,000? We can actually just put Joe Smith in a chair in Washington, D.C. and let them talk about it. And I think we've got away from being there. And it's all about opinions. Cheap, it's easy, it's lazy, and it draws a certain crowd, but that crowd's getting older and older and older. And I don't know what it's going to take, Dr. Drew, but somebody has got to step up and say, no, we're going to do it right. It's going to happen.
I think, as I'm sitting here thinking out loud, and Bobby, I'll let you ring in on this, but it occurs to me, long form interviews, say what you will about Joe Rogan, put somebody else in that driver's seat if you want, somebody you like, that's fine. Long form interview, A. B, freedom of speech, so we can actually see what people are thinking. Bobby, what do you say?
Yep.
I agree wholeheartedly with that, Dr. Drew. I have kind of eschewed the going on these 2 or 3 minute interviews because it just doesn't give me the opportunity to expound on things, and often things are much more nuanced than they appear, and I need that time. So I'm on, for example, twice a week now on Court TV. I get 30 minutes each time. Tuesday and Thursday, 6 to 6:30. I get 30 minutes to talk. So these 2 or 3, and it happens all the time to me. Last week, and this is how it manifests. I get called for an appearance. Yes, I'll do it. Hey, the producer gets on and says, hey, send me some of your thoughts on this, your talking points on that. I send that. And then, they either like it and I say with appearance, or I get, like I did last week on Fox, I get, you know what, we're going to go in a different direction. We'll use you next time.
Of course. I just went through that yesterday. But I, by the way, am highly trained to get things down to a little nugget where I feel like it's worthwhile for me to get in there, at least deliver that nugget. But I never delude myself that I'm going to cover the topic ever.
And I'm also a guy that has somewhat I have moderate views. I will admit that, and sometimes they're not extreme enough in one direction or the other.
That's right. Me too.
A lot of people, I will balance, and that's just the way my mind works. I balance things, and sometimes that's frustrating to producers and sometimes hosts and stuff, and they want to.
And just think about it. I'll let you fill us in a second, Adam, but I want people to think about the fact that the hosts want the controversial guest because they need the ratings to keep their expensive job. The producer is a 23-year-old, right, or at most a 27-year-old who has in his or her first job, and they want to look good to the ups by getting ratings. They don't care about the truth. But go ahead, Adam.
No, you're exactly right. I was going to say that a lot of the producers, and a lot of times it's just who's available the quickest and easiest. And so sometimes they won't go down the Rolodex to further down. They'll stay at that first little chunk of the Rolodex because that person keeps coming on and saying what we want. And it's an easy call because they got to make 5 calls and they got to get 5 guests in an hour. They don't have time to wait for someone to call back and find out studio time. They already know that kind of thing. That's the first thing. And for me, the second thing, I think and Bobby can also probably talk to this as well. Leaving my industry and still being in it a little bit, I can tell you that it's restored my faith in humanity, because having a tasting room, and I only mention that for this, is because people come in from all walks of life. And the majority of us are like what Bobby and you just said. The majority of us are issue-oriented people. We're going to agree on 90 to 95% of everything, whether you say you're a Republican or a Democrat. The problem is the news media, and I'm not going to hear bashed, but the national news media continues to find the extreme, especially on the right side, because it's what stirs people up. It's easy, it's cheap, and Bobby doesn't always say those things to stir people up. He says maybe what is correct, but it's not controversial enough.
Yep. Yeah. No, I know. I know. So, but and that's fine if we want to have entertainment opinion shows, but the same people that are creating that programming stand up and talk about their journalistic integrity, and now they're there to protect. They're the 5th state, whatever, 4th state, whatever. Yeah. And it's just that is, now you're insulting. Now it's disgusting. Now it's truly disgusting what you're saying, because if people buy that, now I'm very worried about this. Opinion, fine, have an opinion show, that's okay, whatever. But to claim that you're doing something else is where I really have a problem.
I think that the only place I find topics covered in the old-fashioned way is my local 6 o'clock news in the local markets who are there just to cover local stories. And you do get that old-fashioned, here's the facts, and this is what happened today in our city, and that's it. But as far as the bigger issues and the national coverage, you're just not getting that.
Yeah, that's right. I think it is. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, sorry with the delay. The only problem with local news is, and you're exactly right, I watch local news, I don't watch national news at all. The only problem they have is they're having to turn around a 4 o'clock story, a 5 o'clock story, and a 6 o'clock story. So they are doing the best they can. But for the local crews, it's usually a reporter and a photographer. That's it. Unless you're in certain parts of the Bay Area or the city where you have to have a security guard. But it's usually just a reporter or photographer, and they're having to turn something around in an hour or two. So they're doing the best they can, but then you lose the aspect of actually truly finding out the depth of the story. So local news has a different challenge than national news has, but at least they're trying. national news doesn't even care.
Yes, right. They are trying to report the investigative reporting. If they get some funding for that, they'll do it, kind of thing. I think it is sort of the golden age of, in a way, of local news, because I would agree with both you guys. I watch it and I get information. I get things I can rely on. I see in the stories, and but I do think that the social media and the apps, the citizens apps, this is changing the whole nature of things. I mean, you literally can get the news from your local region on an app. I mean, the actual information. And so I don't know how this is going to play out, but I do hope that people have had enough of this. I really do. Bobby, I'm going to put you back in the audience. It's good to hear from you. Thank you. Well, hopefully we'll see you soon. All right.
Thank you. Great hearing from both you guys. Thanks.
Susan, something's. Thank you. There we go. To the rescue.
You in Shanghai?
Okay, I'll sing. Don't make me sing. Okay, here we go.
Don't make me sing.
It's weird. I get that.
My wife can sing. I can't.
I know. I just thought about her.
Okay, we're going to talk to Gravitation Beam. I don't know what the name is on that, but there you are. Gavin, what's going on? Gavin? Hold on a second, Gavin. We don't really hear you there. Hold on.
Yeah.
I hear him talking, but can you...
Yeah. It's got a...
Gavin, is there a way you can... you may be away from your phone microphone or something, or maybe there's a Bluetooth that's on, because you sound like you're a million miles off in the distance. Yeah, we can't quite hear that. I'm going to put him back in the audience for a second. All right, let me get one more in here. Sorry, Gavin. We just could barely hear your voice. We had no idea what you were saying. Josh, what's going on?
Hey, Dr. Drew. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So I wanted just to talk about conspiracy theories in general from a psychological point of view. They seem to be something that we cling to when we're feeling pain, but that seems very sort of basic. And I was wondering what your thoughts were on that, because it helps the discussion, I think, to not say you're a conspiracy theorist, but just to talk about that these things do exist and they are a refuge from emotional pain, frankly. And we're all feeling emotional pain.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. So Adam, I don't know if you have an opinion about this, but I feel very strongly that conspiracy theory is a response to pain, but it's mostly pain caused by fear. And the way our brains work, we are meaning-making machines. That's what we are. That's how the frontal lobes function. We have all this other stuff going on, and the frontal lobes are interpreting it all the time. And especially out in the world, when we have fear and we can't understand what is going on, we will force some structure and meaning into it. And certain personality styles and certain obsessional type structures in our cognition move people towards conspiracy type thinking. What are your thoughts on that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, what about my question? I want to follow up with a question to you on that too. Would a situation where we obviously were mostly shut in and out for the last 2 years, then you add to it a lot of the misinformation that's been coming out there. So if you're someone who believes a certain way, and you've been told that the Russia or whatever you happen to believe in, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And all of a sudden that becomes, hey, you were called a conspiracy theorist for reporting on that, and now all of a sudden you're not. Oh, what's that do? I mean, wouldn't that drive? I would assume that would drive even more conspiracy theory in those who might be on the verge, right? I mean, just common sense to me is what I think. I'm not a doctor.
No, exactly right. So people then don't know where to go to get information they can rely on to make sense of these things that are frightening them. And when you are inconsistent, think about dealing with. And I'm not belittling people by saying this. It's just weird as how humans are. Think about how you deal with a child. If you are inconsistent, man, that child doesn't know what to do. That child's behavior goes all over the place. And the child, as an adult, may start thinking strange things. If you are inconsistent and irrational and scary, well, you're going to be suspect. And if I'm already trying to make sense of things and I can't, and there's a sort of an evolving structure I'm seeing, I might put you into that structure in some way, or have you hiding that you're part of this in the sense that you're hiding the structure. Whatever it is, it's just how people's minds work. It's very frustrating. I don't like dealing with paranoia myself. It's my own personality quirk. I don't like not being able to reason with people. The problem with paranoid and delusions and conspiracies, no matter what you tell somebody about the facts, they will find a way to wrap it into their delusion. It's very frustrating. They'll go, oh yeah, sure, you can say X, but the reality is the reason you're saying X is you don't understand that Y and Z is going on, and if you knew Y and Z, you would say X, and of course you're saying X. Whatever it is, it just becomes distorted. And I would urge people. It's a guy I interview once in a while. I'll probably bring him on here. I interview him on my podcast, Dr. Drew podcast, called Gleb Sibursky, and he's a cognitive psychologist. And he just keeps writing about all these distortions that are just running amok with all of us these days. And I would urge everybody, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be thoughtful and logical. What I'm saying is you shouldn't trust your thinking. You should always assume you have a bias. You should always assume there may be some inconsistency or problems in your thinking, and constantly reevaluate your thinking, because thinking is often the enemy. And I deal with this, Adam, in addiction all the time. People's thinking is what gets them back to relapse. It's the enemy. It's the problem. And for instance, I have a positive bias. That's one of my cognitive biases. So I tend to think positively about outcomes, and that biases the things I say. And I can't get over it. I'm a little mystified by people that have a negative bias. I don't see what that gets you. It doesn't help you to have a negative bias. But as this cognitive psychologist I've been discussing said to me, he goes, look, when we were in the environment of evolutionary adaptiveness in the caves, there was somebody who stayed in the cave by the fire and took care of the kids, while you with the positive bias decided you could go out and get a mammoth because you were hungry, because you felt like you could do that. We need both. We need both positive and negative biases in our population, but none of us should just go with those biases and assume they're accurate. Always second guess yourself. Always think things through again. I don't know if you have to do that to yourself, Adam. You seem pretty grounded in your logical thought.
Well, you get challenged all the time. That's just life. Whether you believe in God or you believe in a tree, you're going to be challenged. And those, I do. I think side on your side. I'm more of on the positive. I try to find the positive outcome on most things, even in some of the most crazy situations. It just kind of who I am.
There's all this, there's a whole science of positive psychology and positive mental attitude and all positive thinking and The Secret and all this. That's all positive stuff. And it looks like, generally speaking, humans benefit from that kind of positive thinking, even in very difficult situations. And even when that positive bias may cause you to predict the wrong outcome, having a positive bias generally is good for our mental health. I should tell you on that. Susan, is there more you want to hear from Adam? I'm going to wrap things up here. We are running out of time. He's been very generous with the time. So he's got to coach some soccer.
Yeah, he's got to go.
Gotta go coach. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on.
I know it's a lot of fun.
And you got to get here to Napa and have some
really
wine
is great
for crying out.
Yes, we want to come.
I know. Yeah, we'll be up there. Trust me. You say it a second time, and we'll be up there sooner than you maybe want.
But solve the world's problems.
Yes, over a glass of wine. That's how you do it. And how fun that we got Bobby Chacon in here on the same day. That's fantastic. So
that's crazy.
So good.
Yeah, Bobby's a good guy.
It's crazy.
Thanks,
Bobby's a good guy.
We got our system to work today, so thank God.
So we get to hear from Susan. So
we got the club.
All right, Adam Housley, everybody. At Adam Housley, and Adam. Hopefully, we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You got it. And Susan, we will kind of wrap things up here. We got to go to dinner. We're 3 hours later in New York right now. Like I said, Wheel of Fortune is on the road. We're not in Orlando. We're not in Hawaii. We're in New York. I know that was confusing, so I'm glad Susan brought that up because people didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah, I know. I'm not catching all the nuances of life.
Well, maybe it's just I'm not being clear. I think that's
I don't know everything.
Okay, I'm looking at you guys on Restream.
You know everything.
To see if... okay, Iggy Pop says, Fukuyama argues that conspiracies and unhealthy myths flourish when societal trust breaks down. Yeah, when people are scared and they don't know who to trust. That's exactly what happens. Okay, Siler. I don't know where you're going with
I
all
saw that.
I don't know where you're going with these things, but they're way off me. So you have fun. I hope it's amusing everybody else. I thought Tom Segar would be in there with a hammer, but okay.
No, he's over
Leopold's
on
in there
Twitch
though.
now. He left.
Are we going to
left
Mark's
YouTube.
restaurant? No, Leopold. Does Mark have a restaurant here? I don't think he has a restaurant in New York.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
No,
He
he
has a New York and a restaurant in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
Um,
he's got one in the Hamptons in his hotel.
Yes. It's in Long
That's pretty
Island.
good,
It's a long way from here. So no, we're
His
just going
son
to go.
was cooking here. when we
We're
used to-
going in the hood. We're going in the hood.
Oh, the hood.
Okay, so let's wrap everything up. Caleb, thank you for manning the ship today and for getting us technically going at a distance here. It's fun
Happy
to be able to do this.
420.
Happy 420, Colin Robinson. Susan is a fan of what we do in the shadows as well. So talking to Colin Robinson is especially appealing to us. And when are they coming out with the new season, by the way?
Yeah, that would be good.
Let's see.
That was Drew's favorite.
Oh, so
Next
good.
to 90 Day Fiance. I think 90 Day Fiance comes in second to that one.
Yeah, no. 90 Day Fiance was a symptom of how bad COVID was. I still think of it that way. I'm wondering when I'm going to get off of it.
Oh, the Ukraine special, though, made me cry.
Yes.
You have to see that.
Yes, and because I am Ukrainian descent and my family
90 Day
escaped the
Fiancé
Holodomor at the
Ukraine
turn
special.
of the 20th century, it's intriguing for me to see all the
We
Ukrainians.
actually
that-
wanted to get the Ukrainian people on the show, but then
We're
they
still trying.
Well, they
Still
didn't
trying.
let us. We
We'll see.
understand. They wanted to do their special, and
Well, now they can promote this.
it's it's kind of
So
treacherous
those
territory.
those of you that oh, Jeanette loves 90 Day Fiance too. We'll tell her we're trying to get Yara and Natalie to talk about what their families are up to. And Susan particularly wants to hear about Natalie's mom, which is very upsetting to her. Right?
Yeah, she got out. She
Get
went
out,
to
but she was in
Poland.
Bulgaria.
I thought it was Poland. The other one went back.
She interviewed her in Poland, and at the end they said now she's in Bulgaria waiting for something.
Her
So,
family.
yeah. So 90 Day Fiance the other way, Shanghai for a Shanghai episode. That is very funny.
But there's some Chinese. There weren't Chinese one. There was one Korean guy.
I know,
remember-
but come on. Thank you, TS. They liked me on Trash Tuesday.
Nobody wants to go to China. I don't think.
Yeah. So, okay, let's wrap it up. And we're not in here tomorrow. We are not in here Tuesday, Wednesday next week. We'll be here Friday of next week. So a week from Friday at 4:00, a little bit later than usual. And then we'll get back to our usual schedule the
Yeah,
following week.
Caleb's leaving the baby and he's taking
I
a
know,
vacation.
I know.
and-
Caleb is going to try to, when you have a baby,
wean off the
yeah,
breast.
You have to focus on the partner because the baby takes all the energy.
You're gonna
from
have to
both.
wean on the breast, Caleb. No,
It's
he's
been
gonna miss
it's been
that baby.
painful the past 2 days thinking about leaving him. It's a lot more than I thought.
Well,
So-
wait till you see what happens. Yeah. Either when you get her on the plane and get her out of there, she's going to be greatly relieved, or in a total panic.
Oh,
mode.
no! I'm talking
And
about
don't be
me.
surprised.
I'm not talking about her. She's
No,
fine.
I know you're going to be a mess. I'm not
I'm the
worried about you.
one.
The
I'm
mom,
like-
the mom is what I worry about.
I'm gonna miss
The
him.
moms feel it. Moms feel it different. The moms feel it
Yeah.
more.
So, but when you get back, it'll be interesting because the baby may push away and it'll freak you out because they want to kill the breast.
Yeah, they can't. It's hard for they get angry. Like your dog will start shitting everywhere if you go out of town. And babies do the same thing. It's a little bit different kind of thing.
You better
but,
not.
You're
And
gonna
speaking
get
of that, by the way, Caleb, did you hear Johnny Depp's testimony today?
I've been watching bits and pieces of it while I was packing. Yeah, it's.
What are your thoughts?
Don't drag me.
Why
into
are they
that. I
putting
don't
it
know.
on TV?
Because it's
Why are they doing
O.J.
that?
Simpson all over again. It's
Yeah, I
it's-
mean,
it is, and he's talking about her shitting on the bed and stuff. It's
Yeah.
like crazy stuff.
yeah, I mean, they had a very tumultuous relationship. But
Yeah,
I think he's gonna have. We'll see.
It does. It seems like they both had problems, but I also see
Correct.
they're both very highly motivated to win this. Like it's like $100 million on the line for something this large and careers and everything. I've seen evidence that
Is that
she's
what's on the line?
lied in the past. Like she lied. Didn't they
Yeah.
say she lied about the donating some of the stuff and she didn't donate the money, like the alimony that she got or like something that she won in a lawsuit. And so when things like that start happening, then I
there's
start getting more
tapes, there's
suspicious.
Video
you know?
whenever
Right.
there's sex and tape and people shitting on beds,
and lots
there's
of
gonna
drugs.
be television.
Well, there's
viewing.
drugs involved.
You don't think
and
we would have been
alcohol.
all over that at HLN?
Oh,
my
boy.
God.
Right.
Oh, it
like
would've been a
I'm
great
sure they both
HLN.
made big
You guys would've been
mistakes,
following
but
them.
it seems like,
Maybe we should
yeah.
start a little podcast reviewing the day's court events.
Oh my gosh, but I can't
we
believe
could
that we
can
do that to
reassemble
people.
our HLN
You know,
team
it's just,
and-
it's not really fair. It doesn't seem fair.
well,
to
the
do
sunshine
that.
laws. You can put cameras in courtrooms in certain states, not in every state.
God, California, of course.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody, we will see you.
I don't
a
know.
week
I
from
feel
Friday.
sorry for both of them. I hate to see things like that.
Yeah,
happen to
exactly. I
couples
agree, Susan.
And then, especially when there's large amount of money, it sometimes is worse, you know.
I think that's exactly right. And
And
the
I
attorneys
don't
can really
know,
push
but
it.
he's when you listen to him talking about his drug addiction and everything that he did and what he felt, and I don't know, my heart just breaks. It's like, oh, he was such a huge celebrity, and he had everything going for him, and then
he got a common problem, and I like the way he talks about it.
Yeah,
frankly. He just says,
you
look,
do.
I don't like being a celebrity. I was a normal guy with normal jobs. And right there, his esteem goes up in my eyes.
He
And
needs to
said,
team
"I
up
am
with
a
Russell
terrible
Brand."
alcoholic or a drug addict.
Yeah.
I don't know that Johnny is that. He's not. No, because Russell's
seem that
recovery is much farther along. Johnny will get himself in trouble talking too much about his well-being. He's still struggling, it seems to me. And I don't know him. I don't know anything about it, but I suspect, and I wish him the best. And it looks like he's doing fine right now, and hopefully he'll continue to do fine. But Russell Brand is he has a real recovery going on. And it's I want him to talk.
But he
about
was
it
the
as much
same
as
way.
possible.
I mean, he was married to
He was
Katy
the same
Perry,
way.
and then
He
they
was
broke
the
up.
same way.
But I don't know. It was weird to see him just speaking in his own normal voice. He reminded me of, what was the old actor that was in Streetcar Named Desire?
Yeah, like Brando.
Brando. He reminded me of Brando, the way he
Little
was
bit,
talking.
mumbling and stuff.
And some of the things he said, I loved his choice of words. Like, I'm just like, wow, I didn't know that's how he spoke.
You also see why he is so effective on screen. You get my sense? I mean, you want to watch him. You can't not watch him.
But he's more intense.
And some people are just that way. You want to watch them, and they're interesting. And I don't know what, no one has ever, if anybody out there knows what that is, I'd like to interview you, because people have theorized about that for a long time, but I don't think anybody's ever actually figured out what that thing is that makes other humans want to watch you. Whether he's on a witness stand with a pirate outfit on, they want to watch him, or a Willy Wonka
well,
outfit
he's
on.
well read. You can tell. Like some of his
Smart is
wording
part of it.
Yeah.
Smart is part of it. Eloquent is part of it. But there was way more going on. Way more. I was watching with that in mind. I was thinking, what? Why do I
But
watch
I mean,
this guy so
and I
much?
understand him being in front of the camera, but if you just look at her face, like you can see her real emotions. Like he's acting the whole time too. So
Maybe.
and it's like, why did they put the cameras in front of him like that? Like it's not going to fare well. It's like, 'cause,
He's wanted his day in court, and he got it. You know what I mean? That's what he wanted. He wants it.
right. I mean, it might help him too.
Well,
but-
no, I think, look, we watched some commentary on it, and somebody said, he clearly had a lot on his mind. I thought, yeah, he wanted to get this all out. He wants to have his day in court, and he got it. Look, when it comes to people printing bullshit, I'm very supportive of people taking legal action for nonsense. If it really is bullshit, I'm behind you. Because it's gotten way out of hand, where people can say anything they want about people regardless of the consequences, and that is not
Well,
right.
it kind of
It's not
reminds me
right.
of Celebrity Rehab too, because it's like they have to do everything truthful and talk about everything they did that screwed up their marriage
That's treatment. That's what treatment
and what
is.
they
Yeah, do it with your peers.
But maybe I don't know. Maybe it'll work out.
Leopold, that's a good point. But Leopold says the court is for the rich. But at least the rich people are doing it, and then others can benefit from the case law, perhaps, or at least the experience.
God, how rich was he? What was he worth?
$650 million, I heard.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he can afford to. Well, he's all over crazy moves.
He did some great movies.
Oh yeah, the libs of.
And then he changed his Winona tattoo to Wino.
The libs of
Forever Wino.
TikTok thing, controversy.
That was actually funny.
Yeah. He's changed his tattoo from Winona Weiner to Wino Forever.
Forever Winona.
Forever Winona.
Forever Wino.
There you go.
Which is awesome.
And he laughed about it. And
I mean, it was funny.
He is funny. I don't know him, and I wish him the best. And I do know a lot of people that know him. I know Doug Stanhope, who we love, and Doug loves Johnny Depp. And so, I hope, maybe I'll call Doug and see what he thinks about what's
cancel
going on.
culture doesn't come down hard.
On him.
Yeah.
Well, they're trying to make it about male domestic abuse, right?
Right.
And about people, and somehow it's going to, if she loses, somebody's going to make it that, oh, man got the better of this. A white female does not get to win in court. I don't know that he's going to win, I don't know if that would be the reason he would win. Maybe the facts speak for themselves, and that's why he wins. The two of them have a lot of stuff going on, and when both people are sick, shit goes down.
Yes.
And I hate to see one person taking sort of umbrage with the other.
It's like,
trust me, they both.
And then there were the
shit goes down.
mushrooms, and then there were the
shit goes down.
the pot,
And it's never good. It's a lot is always craziness. And so craziness went down.
I don't know the backstory.
I think what he's taking issue is that she wrote about it in the paper and made it all his problem. So now he's making it all her problem. And neither is the truth, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
It is both of their problem. All right, so we will leave it at that.
You just have to prove that the other one's more crazy.
I don't know what they're doing.
I wouldn't do it in front of a camera.
All right.
I would lose.
Yep.
See, because one of you's really good in front of the camera and the other one isn't. You're not going to win.
We haven't seen her yet. I bet she's good.
Well,
she's another person people like to watch. There's going to be something compelling there. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you in about 7-8 days.
We're not selling ads or anything for this court thing.
No. It just caught our attention, and we're rolling to a halt, everybody. So
but now we have to see how
the
press takes little clips of it and sensationalizes it.
Well,
so unless you watch the whole thing from beginning to end, like a juror, you really can't. We shouldn't even watch the clips because they're going to sensationalize whatever he says.
And yes, Colin Robinson, Frank did shit the bed, and It's Always Funny in Philadelphia, and Charlie didn't like it. I think that's an appropriate way to end, isn't it?
And on that
note,
what
I'm talking about. On that note, I got Susan off.
Everybody have a good brown today.
We'll see you on your mom's house. Check out Dr. After Dark, and don't forget to sign up at drdrew.tv. And more on the if you want to suggest guests to us or topic, please don't hesitate to do so at contact@drdrew.com.
We'll be back full steam. And
Susan is going to be she has time to look that stuff over when we're flying and stuff, so she'll look at all the contact suggestions. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you guys out on Restream. And of course,
that was a great show. That was my idea to have Adam Housley on.
Adam is always.
My guests always do really well.
Yeah. We'll give us some more. We'll go for it.
All right,
everybody. We'll see you next time.
Ta-ta.
Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.